Hello, I'm Karim Zachary and you're watching All 24 News special coverage on Russia-Ukraine coming to you live from Algiers. The Russia-Ukraine war lingers on, and what Russia calls a special military operation in Ukraine has devastated several Ukrainian cities, caused a humanitarian crisis, and fueled insecurity around the world. Here are some key events that we are going to discuss shortly. On the ground, Russia is pounding military targets across Ukraine as both sides prepare for a new offensive in the east, in the besieged city of Mariupol. Russia warned that the remaining Ukrainian fighters holding out a steel plant would be eliminated if they did not surrender. And a blow to Russian forces, the Moskva, the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, which sank after sustaining catastrophic damage. US officials later confirmed that Ukrainian missile strike was responsible. Days after the sinking, the fate of much of the ship's 500-member crew remained uncertain. Europe drafts oil ban. European Union officials said they were drafting the most contested measure yet to punish Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, an embargo on Russian oil products. The bloc has long resisted such a ban because of its dependence on Russian energy sources. And a boost to NATO, Finland and Sweden are considering applying for membership in the alliance. Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president and prime minister, said Moscow would be forced to seriously strengthen its defenses in the Baltics if the two countries were to join. To raise questions about the aforementioned key events through analysis, I'm joined via Skype by Marina Kugut, social activist and political analyst from Kiev, from Ukraine, along with Benjamin Barton, assistant professor at Nottingham University from Malaysia, as well as Shaukat Piracha, political security and foreign policy analyst from Pakistan. Thank you, dear guests, for joining us. The discussion begins right after this break. And before we delve into any discussion, let's start with this info. The western Ukrainian city of Lviv was hit by 5 powerful strikes today morning, according to its mayor. The missile strike left 6 people killed and 8 wounded. A local governor announced that a child was among the victims. Located far from the front line, Lviv and western Ukraine have rarely been targeted by bombardment since the start of the conflict in Ukraine. Let me start with you, Mrs. Marina Kugut. Since you are at the heart of these unfortunate events, what can you tell us about the latest developments on the ground? What's the morale of the people there like? How serious is the damage of the Russian recent strikes? Can you hear me?
Hello to everyone, yes.
Yes.
Can I answer?
Go ahead.
Well, yes, thank you for invitation and for these questions and for your attention to what is happening right now in my country. I would say that Kiev has slowly started to return to more or less normal, as much as it's possible, life. But still, we have air alerts, like I would say every 2-3 hours, and more actively we have them during the night. So I think that no one can sleep normally for almost 2 months in our country, unfortunately. I would like to say that yes, the shops, the supermarkets, some cafeterias, they are opening because our president as well as our government recommended and underlined the need to run the business, run the house, to keep the economic stability as much as it's possible during this situation. The moral of the people. What about the question you stated? Yes, the moral of the people is really high, because you should understand we all are defending our country, and we know perfectly what we are fighting for. And everything what happened in Bucha, what is happening now in Mariupol and other regions, especially in the east, they show, and all these things, they just bring more power to our people to fight and to destroy the enemy. This is the only purpose that we have, that all our nation has. And we are doing this. Yes, we don't have other choice.
But Western Ukraine has rarely been targeted by bombardment. Sorry to cut your thoughts, but Western Ukraine has rarely been targeted by bombardment. Why this expansion now, according to you?
When we are talking about the western part of Ukraine, we should understand that lots of people, they were displaced from the south regions and as well as east part of the country. They were displaced to the west, where it's more like, let's say, safe. And I understand, as well as our politicians, as well as our president and government, we all understand that the only reason coming from Russian of bombing the cities, these western cities, is just to bring more panic, to frighten people, and to make these people leave the country. That's it. But, you know, the second month is coming to an end, the second month of this war. And I would say it's a big mistake for the Russians to think that we still have this fear. There is no more fear. There is a big desire to fight and to kill the enemy.
Very nice indeed. Thank you for sharing. Professor Benjamin Barton, you've been following the Russia-Ukraine file closely and for a while now. What conclusions have you drawn so far, and how do you analyze the latest updates? What can you say about Russia's new targets? I mean, Lviv and Western Ukraine have rarely been targeted indeed by bombardment since the start of the conflict in Ukraine. What does the expansion of the strike mean, according to you? Hello, Professor Barton, can you hear me? Oh, so apparently we lost Benjamin Barton. So I redirect my question to Mr. Shaukat Piracha. Are you here with me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know if you have heard my question, or should I paraphrase?
I have heard your question. Question. And thank you very much for inviting me in your show. And I was indeed encouraged to listen to the earlier guest, you know, Mariana, if you said the name, you know. And I really salute the people of Ukraine for having stood against one of the superpowers in the world of the time. A small state called Ukraine, and its brave people, they have told the world that if you have the courage and if you have the will to fight and defend yourself, you still can defend yourself. As she was very rightly pointing out, when the fear in a nation is lost, that nation can never be defeated. And my salute to the nation of Ukraine for having stood against a superpower and having given an example to other parts of the world where subjugation of one country or bigger country is being continued against the people who do not want their supremacy. As far as the attacks are concerned, the Russians, they have been trying throughout of these 2 months to intimidate the people, that the people of Ukraine, with the fear and intimidation, they can stand against their leadership or they can leave Ukraine. There have been many refugees, millions of refugees who have left their country, especially the women and the children, with whom I have a lot of sympathy, because if you are leaving your home, if you are leaving your country, if you are going to the disposal of others, how life can be hard and difficult for you. But still, for the cause of your country, for the cause of your nation, you are doing it. But hats off to the people of Lvov, of Kyiv or Mariupol, for example, which are under constant attack by the Russian ruthless bombing. But still the people, the brave people are standing and they have refused to bow down against the mighty Russian forces who are constantly bombing one city or the other city. Western part, because Western part, there was concentration of, for example, the refugees. There were concentration of the people who thought that they may not be, come under attacks from the Russian. But we have seen that it's invariably indiscreet bombing by the Russians. The world has not been able to stop Russia from aggression. It has been near 2 months that this morning, for example, as you very rightly said, that people died. Yesterday, a dozen could have died. Day before yesterday, another dozen would have. Why Russians are killing the innocent human beings? If a theater is attacked or a building is attacked, unarmed civilian, they are having shelter over there. The world has not been able to stop Russian. Pope Francis yesterday, he appealed that the bombing should be stopped, but the Russian, they are not stopped. Whether Russia is back to the communist thought that they are not even listening to the Pope, very strange questions. And the world.
But do you see any hope for the situation to de-escalate anytime soon? Are we at the peak of the conflict yet? Will there be any possible and logical resolution? How do you see a way out? Yes, Professor.
There is an old saying. There is an old saying that threat to peace anywhere is threat to peace everywhere. If Ukraine is threatened and there is a threat to peace within the heart of Europe, so this threat can spread to anywhere. And if the patience, or the rather not the patience, but the idle or coward attitude by the Europe for their own interests, I'm talking of the Western Europe, if that is at some stage it is lost, then we will be facing huge consequences. Never forget that in Sarajevo, an isolated incident in 1914 that gave birth to the World War I. So if the threat remains there, the threat will not be up to Mariupol or Kiev. It will spread. It can spread. It has the potential. But Russians cannot be thwarted by merely by appeals, The sanctions that the Western countries imposed on the Russian oligarchs or others, they have still not thwarted President Putin. His girlfriend, Alina, and she was approached by many people that you should play a role. She also had some risk and she did not play any role. So far, whatever has been planned or implemented, that has not thwarted Russia. It means President Putin is not listening. Whatever has been done.
We will get back to the file of sanctions just shortly, Professor. I would like to share with you this latest updates. And according to regional health official, a series of strikes occurred on Sunday in Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv, in the northeast of the war-scarred country, and which left at least 5 dead and 13 injured. Let's follow this report and then we get back to discussion shortly.
In Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city northwest of the country, at least 5 people were killed and 13 injured in a large-scale airstrike on the city. It came as the key port city of Mariupol appeared on the brink of falling to Russian forces on Sunday after 7 weeks under siege.
You know, when a dog hears a boom, he starts shaking all over, even if the noise is far away? I am like that right now. Everything, every part of me is shaking.
This development is what would give Moscow a crucial success in Ukraine following a botched attempt to storm the capital and the loss of the Russian Navy's Black Sea flagship.
I heard the next salvo coming, and immediately black smoke was visible. I saw it was near my house, so I ran home. A young man then ran into the yard and helped me save the cat.
Many analysts stated that no part of Ukraine was immune until the war ends. Russian forces carried out new missile strikes on Sunday in an apparent effort to weaken Ukraine's military capacity before the anticipated military advancement in the east. Russia accused Ukraine on Thursday of wounding 7 people and damaging about 100 residential buildings with airstrikes in Bryansk, a region bordering Ukraine, which justified Russia's stepped-up attacks on Kyiv. Ukrainian officials have not confirmed hitting targets in Russia.
I get back to you, Mrs. Marina Kugut. Amid the shelling, and if we speak of hope of cessation of violation, it seems it's not likely anytime soon at all. I mean, the Kremlin has accused Ukraine of constantly shifting its position on issues previously agreed upon at talks between the two sides. And the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, told reporters on a conference call, and I quote, "Unfortunately, the Ukraine side is not consistent in terms of the points that have been agreed. It is often changing its position, and the trend of the negotiating process leaves much to be desired." He also added, noting that contacts continue at an expert level. How do you read this, Mrs. Marina Kugut, amidst the continued bombardment by Russia?
Yes, thank you for the question. I would say, practically on behalf of the majority of the population of Ukraine, that we do not believe into this negotiation and its effectiveness since the very beginning. I will tell you why. Because let's remember that the war has been lasting since 2014. And if we talk about the full-scale war, yes, it started on 24th of February, I'm sorry. And throughout these years, there were so much negotiations took place with the Russian delegation. And actually, no practical results and consequences of these constant meetings, constant negotiations, or kind of signed agreements, which were signed, including by Russians, they didn't follow it. They didn't follow what was written in this agreement. And if we coming back to negotiations that are taking place, during these 2 months, I can say that, and probably if we are talking about what Mr. Peskov stated, that maybe they want us to give up our territories, and this is actually their main purpose, why they are continuing this negotiation. But we will not do this. And President, yesterday, in his interview to the CNN, he clearly stated that if people who are still now in Mariupol and defenders who are defending the city, if they will be killed, there will be no more negotiation with the Russian Federation. Mm-hmm. And to my mind, this is a very clear point stated by our president. Because actually what we hear now, yes, this online, as we know, all online talks, they are taking place, I would say, very often, practically every week, between our office of the president and the Russians. But the main line that is raised all the time during this negotiation is the humanitarian help to those territories that are occupied, and the evacuation of people from these territories to the Ukraine. And as we all know, actually every day when this evacuation is happening, the cars, the buses, the trains, they have been shot by the Russians every day, and then don't mind whether there are children or women or whoever. Mm-hmm. So this is my opinion, that actually effectiveness of this negotiation is really very, very low.
All right. Mr. Shoukat Piracha, sweeping Western sanctions imposed on Russia over its invasion have hammered the country's economy, which has also faced an exodus of major foreign firms amid widespread outrage over Moscow's offensive. Yet again, Putin is determined and remains unwavering in pursuing what he calls a military operation. What could convince him to stop his aggression? What could be done more to punish them?
Well,
Yes.
had I been in position to convince Putin, I would have convinced him. So far, whatever has been devised or what has been put forward by the world, Putin has not been convinced to stop the war. Because if the economy is destroyed of this war, because
Okay, if they
Putin has
cannot
certain
convince
set of
him to
goals.
stop the war, I mean, Russia's anticipated offensive in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region looms, and Kiev's need for heavy weapon systems is acute. At the top of the list are fighter jets, something the European Union and the United States have been reluctant to provide. Why this reluctance, though? And are the weapons being sent to Ukraine not enough? Yes, Mr. Pirasha.
Weapons have not been enough, The courage of the people of Ukraine so far has been enough and their determination has been enough. If light arms, if light guns, they are put against the tanks and other latest weapons developed by Russia, how can these light infantry or light weapons, they can compete the heavy armament used by Russia? This is one thing. The other is, as I was saying, that the determination of the people that has been there in the field, which has so far stood Ukraine as an independent country. The interest, in fact, Putin thought maybe that since he controlled the supply of gas and other natural resource to the Europe, so he will be able to sustain his war efforts. Now Europe is turning to other energy sources, for example, in Africa, North Africa, or maybe they will be turning to Central Asian republics if Russian they allow them or they are out of the control of Russia. That's why the world is not finding a solution to this crisis.
And the fight obviously is not really balanced, and that's why I would like to ask Marina Kuget why this reluctance from Western nations to provide the right weapons to compete in this crisis or in this fight with Russia. Marina Kuget?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Let's be honest that at the beginning, actually, the world said no for supplying us with the necessary weapons. And now we see that this reluctance is actually disappearing slowly but slowly. And the US and the United Kingdom, as well as other European countries, they keep on sending and delivering us some weapons, some heavy weapons even. But we should also understand that now the amount and the the names of the weapons, this is the state secret, because some countries they are asking for not revealing this information to the world. So I would say from my discussions with my friends who are also now in the army, we have weapons. We have maybe I would say a lot of, but yes, it's not enough. We still need more and more. And I hope, and I really see this willingness from the Western countries, and that's why I really hope, and we all hope, that the armament supply will continue, and probably it will even increase. So
yes, and Mrs. Marina Kuget, I would like to ask you also about the capturing of the port city of Mariupol, which is critical or of critical importance to Russia, as it would allow it to forge a land corridor between the Donbas and the already annexed Crimea region. But seizing Mariupol has been a challenge. Despite coming under weeks of heavy bombardment, Ukrainians have repeatedly pledged to continue fighting and to defend the city until the end. My question being, how long can this city resist still without the necessary, let's say, support from the West, vis-a-vis heavy armament, that is?
Actually, yes, we no one believed that they will stand for 2 months, and let's say that they did. So I think probably this information is hidden by the government. I think there are some ways of supplying them with at least something, because they keep on fighting, they keep on struggling very actively, and that sometimes the defenders, our warriors from Azov especially, they have interviews, they have some videos shooted from Mariupol, and they are very committed to stay there till the end. No one will give up, believe me. And they said that after what happened and after what was revealed in Bucha and other cities of Kiev region, Sumy region, Kharkiv region, we all will stand till the end. And just today I heard the information from the military experts, our Ukrainian military experts, that actually some troops, Russian troops from Mariupol, left the city, and as far as we understand, they will be moved to other cities in Donbass, probably to increase the capability of their army, of the Russian army. So, and this maybe will also influence of how long will the Mariupol defenders stand.
Yes, very nice. I would like to ask you, Mr. Shavkat Piracha, Ukraine has demanded that Russian forces open humanitarian corridors from Mariupol to allow civilians and wounded Ukrainian troops to leave. But no large-scale evacuations have taken place for several weeks. Are we creating a humanitarian crisis on purpose? What would be the interest of anyone from that, Mr. Shavkat Piracha?
Actually, Russia is also using these tactics to press or to get the Ukrainian president bow down. I mean, if they allow the wounded or the marginalized sections to leave, who is wounding these people? Who is bombing these people? The same Russian forces. They are working on multiple fronts to get President Zelensky bow down and come to the dictation of the President Putin, whatever he wants. Human corridor in the modern age, or as being member of the United Nations and having signed the UN Charter, there are clear provisions of Geneva Convention or Vienna Convention, for example, in terms of even wounded soldiers, but nothing is working as the international law is there.
Speaking of international law, Mr. Shavkat Piracha, is the international law flawed to this point where humanity suffers and nobody can come to their rescue? What's the fault of innocent unarmed civilians amid this political greed and war? Why do innocent Ukrainians and Russians have to pay the price? Are we on the verge of having a new world order?
In fact, what is international law? It is agreed by the powers. So a big power is Russia, the smaller power is Ukraine. And that's why, clubbing it to your earlier question, why light weapon is being provided and not the heavy weapon, because that brings the world again at the brink of a nuclear war. So risk is there. And that's why the major powers or the flawed international law that you are talking about, for example, there are Chapter 7 provisions and Chapter 6 provision. In terms of the bigger power, the Chapter 7 is being, taken up, not Chapter 6. Otherwise, if Security Council passes a resolution under Chapter 6, then the military intervention is there. Here, in case of Ukraine, when Russia is intervening and Russia is bombing and Russia is trying to
Thank you so much, Mr. Shavkat Piracha. We have run out of time. Thank you so much for these insights. Thank you, Marina Kugut, for being with us as well via phone from Ukraine. With this, our coverage draws to an end. Thank you, dear guests, for your thorough analysis. And thank you, dear viewers, for keeping it here on All 24 News with me, Karim Fazakari. Bye for now.